Okay. Sorry about that. I think we're on. Yeah, we are. All right. Welcome to the top 10 at 10. Today is the May the 27th, 2014. I'm your host, Dan Wright, writer at firedoglake.com, and these are the top 10 stories at 10. There we go. Story number 10. That is from Reuters. Eurosceptic elections surge gives EU a headache. This was apparently a political earthquake that occurred in Europe over these previous elections. Stunning victories in European Parliament elections by nationalist Eurosceptic parties from France and Britain left the European Union licking its wounds on Monday and facing a giant policy dilemma. Across the continent, anti-establishment parties of the far right and hard left more than doubled their representation, harnessing a mood of anger with Brussels over austerity, mass unemployment, and immigration. While the center right and center left will continue to control more than half of the 751 seats in the EU legislature, they will face an unprecedented challenge from the noisy insurgents determined to stop business as usual in the 28-nation bloc. French Prime Minister Manuel Valls called the breakthrough by Marine Le Pen's anti-immigration, anti-Euro National Front, which topped a national vote for the first time and pushed his socialists into third place, a political earthquake. He sought to counter her immediately by offering more tax cuts to spur an economy which is flatlining. Across the channel, another tremor raised new doubts about Britain's long-term future in the EU. Nigel Farage, UK's independent party, which advocates immediate withdrawal, defeated the opposition Labour Party and Prime Minister David Cameron's Conservatives. The anti-EU vote was amplified in many countries by a low turnout of just 43.1%. But the pro-European center ground held firm in Germany, the EU's biggest member state. In the UK, they have to have a referendum on EU membership, and they might vote no based on the turnout. So, in Britain, Cameron rebuffed UKIP leader Nigel Farage's call for an early referendum on an EU exit, sticking to his plan to renegotiate membership terms if he is re-elected next year and put the result to an in or out plebiscite in 2017. However, some analysts said UKIP surge may force the Prime Minister to toughen his stance on Europe and could scare more pro-European voters in Scotland into opting to leave Britain in a September referendum. How about that? So these elections were quite an event and may genuinely influence the course of Europe. Story number 9. In complaint, activists seek audit of New York police surveillance. This is from the New York Times. Several groups plan to file a formal complaint on Tuesday seeking an audit of the New York Police Department's intelligence gathering operations after recent revelations that the department had been monitoring political activists, sending undercover officers to their meetings, and filing reports on their plans. The group said the complaint would be the first over surveillance to be filed with the department's new Office of Inspector General. It is likely to be a closely watched test case for the office, whose duty is to oversee the tactics and policies of the police. The city council, despite opposition from former mayor Michael Bloomberg, created the office last year after complaints about the overuse of stop and frisk tactics and surveillance of Muslim communities. The complaint being filed on Tuesday follows the release of a document by the Associated Press this spring revealing that undercover police officers had attended meetings of liberal political organizations and kept intelligence files on activists. Several of the groups mentioned, including Friends of Brad Will, worked together to draft a complaint. One of the authors is Robert Jureski, 46, a coordinator of the group, which is indicated to bring accountability to those responsible for the murder of Brad Will, a journalist who was killed in 2006 while working in Mexico. The group comprises a network of activists promoted to enhance public awareness about the human rights abuses linked to the war on drugs. Apparently, the NYPD sent undercover officers in and took notes of these meetings. Story number 8 From the Daily Dot, gruesome photos hit Twitter as Ukrainian airport battle continues. Just one day after Ukraine elected incoming President Petro Poroshenko, a billionaire widely regarded as a strongly pro-European, pro-Russian rebels are battling national forces for control of Donetsk airport in the city located deep in the heavily contested eastern region of the country. After a gun battle during the day subsided, Ukrainian troops reportedly launched airstrikes in an effort to push rebels out of the airport. Grisly photos of bloody bodies were rapidly spread through Twitter in the wake of the attacks. One particular photo of what looks like a dead body of an elderly woman covered with cardboard quickly became an icon of Monday's violence. Yep. The elderly woman was killed near Donetsk City railway station. Media outlets and locals have latched onto the various images of her, but the full story of how she died remains unknown. So things are getting hot, and they're killing a lot of civilians, on purpose or by accident, in Kiev. Story number 7: The Empire Strikes Back: How Brandeis Foreshadowed Snowden and Greenwald. You have to read this essay. This is great over at Salon from Andrew O'Hare. So-called liberals attacked the whistleblower duo, and a brilliant Supreme Court justice saw it all coming. In the famous wiretapping case Olmstead versus United States, argued before the Supreme Court in 1928, Justice Louis Brandeis wrote one of the most influential dissenting opinions in the history of American jurisprudence. Those who are currently engaged in what might be called the establishment counterattack against Glenn Greenwald and Edward Snowden, including the eminent liberal journalists Michael Kinsley and George Packer, might benefit from giving it a close reading and a good long think. Brandeis's understanding of the problem posed by a government that could spy on its own citizens without any practical limits was so far-sighted as to seem uncanny. It's hard to summarize his total essay. I really do recommend reading it, but it goes through Brandeis's sort of basic statement here, which I guess I can go into here. Our government is the potent, the omnipresent teacher, Brandeis concluded. For good or for ill, it teaches the whole people by its example. Crime is contagious. If the government becomes a lawbreaker, it breeds contempt for law. It invites every man to become a law unto himself. It invites anarchy. To declare that in the administration of the criminal law, the end justifies the means, to declare that the government may commit crimes in order to secure the conviction of a private criminal, would bring terrible retribution. And it goes into how Kinsley's, who attacked basically the First Amendment, who said the government should be able to decide what is and what is not published, is just antithetical to American values, which is true. So definitely check out this. I don't know what's happening now. Oh, Salon, you tried to throw something at me, but I don't know what it was. Okay, so moving on. Story number 6. Prosecutors, hacker helped thwart. That's from the Associated Press. Prosecutors, hacker helped thwart 300 cyber attacks. A prolific computer hacker who infiltrated the servers of major corporations later switched sides and helped the government disrupt hundreds of cyber attacks on Congress, NSA, and other sensitive targets, according to federal prosecutor. New York prosecutors detailed the cooperation of Hector Xavier Monsignor for the first time in court papers, while asking a judge to reward him with leniency at his sentencing Tuesday. They credited Monsignor with helping them cripple Anonymous, the notorious crew of hacktivists who stole confidential information, defaced websites, and temporarily put some victims out of business. Working around the clock, the FBI agents at his side, Monsignor provided in real-time information about then ongoing computer hacks and vulnerabilities in significant computer systems, prosecutors wrote. The FBI estimates he helped detect at least 300 separate attacks, preventing millions of dollars in losses. Likely, that's not true. The FBI is notoriously lying about this stuff. After his arrest and guilty plea in 2011, Monsignor faced more than 2 decades behind bars, but because of his cooperation, the sentence could be 2 years or less. Court papers say Monsignor first began hacking in a Manhattan apartment in the early 2000s. His aim was then to steal credit card information, then sell it, or use it to pay his own bills. Okay. In a 2011 interview with an online magazine, Monsignor said he decided to join forces with Anonymous because he was upset over the arrest of WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange. Whatever. His alias was Sabu. Monsignor led an anonymous splinter group called Lulz Security or Lulsec. I'm not sure that's true. I'm not sure who's a leader. Okay, so this is sort of, I mean, it's good to read the public report on this. I think a lot of these facts are disputed. Story number 5, Greenwalds Finale, naming victims of surveillance. The man who helped bring about the most significant leak in American history is to reveal the names of U.S. citizens targeted by their own government, and what he promises will be the biggest revelations from nearly 2 million classified files. Greenwald, the journalist who received the trove of documents from Edward Snowden, a former National Security Agency contractor, told the Sunday Times Snowden's legacy would be shaped in large part by this finishing piece still to come. His plan to publish names will further unnerve an American intelligence establishment already reeling from 11 months of revelations about U.S. government surveillance activities. Greenwald, who is promoting his book to No Place to Hide and is trailed by a documentary crew wherever he goes, was speaking in a boutique hotel near Harvard where he was to appear with Noam Chomsky, the octogenarian leftist academic. One of the big questions when it comes to domestic spying is who has been the NSA's specific targets? Are they political critics and dissidents and activists? Are they genuinely people we'd regard as terrorists? What are the metrics and calculations that go into choosing those targets, and what is done with the surveillance that is conducted? So I guess that's the finishing piece. See who was targeted. Story number 4. This is from Washington Post. Nigeria says it has found missing girls. Nigerian military says they have found abducted girls. A top Nigerian military official said Monday that the government knows the whereabouts of several hundred kidnapped girls, but cannot reveal their location and cannot use force to rescue them. The good news for the parents of the girls is we know where they are, but we cannot tell you. Okay? Just leave us alone. We're working to get the girls back. That's not confidence inspiring. The comments cannot be independently confirmed. The U.S. Department of Defense spokesman in Washington told the Associated Press that the Pentagon cannot confirm the reports. So the Nigerians are claiming, or the Nigerian government is claiming they know where they are, or whether they actually do, I guess that's not the question. Story number 3, Hillary leaves left cold. Liberal Democrats feel the wind is at their backs, making it all the more irksome for them that Hillary Clinton could be their presidential nominee in 2016. For many on the left, Clinton is the woman who supported the Iraq War, ran to the right of President Obama, and associated with Wall Street-friendly centrism, espoused by her husband, former President Bill Clinton. Progressives feel they are in a political golden age in which questions about income inequality are growing louder, anti-gay marriage laws are falling, and the growing Hispanic electorate regards the GOP with skepticism. Given all that, they don't want to be stuck with a standard bearer they see as too centrist. So far, few on the left are mounting full frontal attacks on Clinton, at least publicly, or some are making it clear they will seek to push her to the left. If Hillary Clinton embraces the rising economic populist tide for America, there will be little political space for a credible primary challenger, said Laura Freidenbach of the Progressive Change Committee. But if she sides with big corporations against everyday people, there will be a huge amount of political space for some insurgent to run on an economic populist platform. Every candidate who thinks about running will be faced with a whole new set of questions on holding Wall Street accountable, on combating student debt, on expanding Social Security. Whether Secretary Clinton or Senator Warren or others, all of them are going to have to address the issues that progressives really care about. Many progressives yearn for Senator Elizabeth Warren to run, though she has been adamant she will not. Boo! Story number 2, governments await Obama's move on carbon to gauge U.S. climate efforts. President Obama, this is from the New York Times, President Obama is expected to announce on Monday an Environmental Protection Agency regulation to cut carbon pollution from the nation's 600 coal-fired plants. In a speech, the government analysts in Beijing, Brussels, and beyond will scrutinize to determine how serious the president is about fighting global warming. The regulation will be Mr. Obama's most forceful effort to reverse 20 years of relative inaction on climate change by the United States, which has stood as the greatest obstacle to international efforts to slow the rise of heat-trapping gases. So we're going to see, I guess, this could be very. I mean, I don't know if he's going to try to split the baby here and say, well, I'm putting these new regulations on coal, so now we can build the Keystone Pipeline. But they would have a serious effect, particularly if China does take some direction from it, because China's using so much coal right now, it's ridiculous. And the number one story, after election, Kiev launches brutal assault on East Ukraine. After the results of Sunday's election handed victory to Ukrainian oligarch Petro Poroshenko, a brutal assault began on East Ukraine by Kiev. Videos and photos from the attack showed numerous dead civilians in East Ukraine, apparently killed as a result. The central area of the attack seemed to be an airport in Donetsk, which faced bombardment from artillery on the ground and jets in the air. One separatist leader claimed 50 fighters died at the Donetsk airport, and that after the attack by Kiev, there was no going back. This is civil war. If the battles on Monday were any indication, there's a long struggle ahead for both sides, one that will lead to the deaths not just of fighters, but scores of those caught in the crossfire. Our political dynamics of the situation in East Ukraine appear to be subtler than in Crimea, where Russia directly intervened. Russian President Vladimir Putin has claimed to support the results of the election in Kiev and has made no direct pledges to support breakaway territories in East Ukraine who have declared independence. Instead, the support seems to be indirect, with Putin being content to keep Kiev off balance. It's an interesting, if not effective, game, but the cost will be high if Kiev refuses to accept autonomy in East Ukraine, as there seems to be no shortage of local fighters or Russian-supplied arms. Meanwhile, the central government is nearing bankruptcy, and Russia is demanding back payments owed for natural gas. So Ukraine still in a horrifying position. No end in sight. And that was the top 10 at 10. If you have a story you'd like me to feature on the top 10 at 10, please tweet me at Dan S. Wright. And be sure to read all the stories at firedogblake.com. Thanks for watching. See you later.